Hi, everybody. I'm Tammy Spector, and I'm a professor at the University of San Francisco, but also for many, many years, I served on the Leonardo board of directors, and I'm still on the editorial board of Leonardo. For those of you who don't know what Leonardo is, it's the International Society for Art, Science, and Technology, and it publishes one of the most important journals in those intersections worldwide, and runs lots of different programs, including the laser program, which Piero actually started many years ago now. And it's the Leonardo Art Science Evening Rendezvous. And it's a program up within Leonardo. And so if you want to know more about that, you can go into the Leonardo website and check it out. And there's lots of lasers worldwide now, all over the world, happening monthly. So if you like this, you can listen to lots of other people give talks on their work, artists and scientists and everything in between. I'm going to introduce our next speaker, which is Therese Lahaye. And Therese is a media artist. She has light sculptural work in the permanent collections of various museums and collections, including the Crocker Art Museum, the Corning Museum of Glass Contemporary Collection, and the De Rosa Collection, and the Glass Musée Ebeltoft, I don't know if I said that correctly, in Denmark. Among other honors and residencies, she is the 2015 National Award winner of the Lucite Lux Just Imagine Award for her art in public places commission Crossing Signal Mosaic in Emeryville, California. So welcome, Therese, and look forward to your talk.
Thank you, Tammy and Piero. And I'm also going to be talking about our favorite star in a more aesthetic fashion. I am a light installation artist, and working with light in combination with materials, different materials for many years. And I'm also an open water swimmer. Open water swimmers are very engaged with the tides, what's happening with the moon, is it in apogee and perigee, and how that affects the tides. Seabirds and kelp. And so I've gotten very interested in what's happening with the seabirds, particularly with warming oceans. I've been experimenting with sun and video projection on optical mirror. So we're looking at video projection on an optical mirror, and that projection is on a wall, and the scale is about 30 feet of the larger form, which is actually very much the shape and form of a diving seabird, because they're a combination of fish in their dynamic shape, but they also have wings. So this is a pop-up event. This investigation with optical mirrors started at the beginning of the pandemic. And I started going to different places and working with artists and ornithologists outside. So this was a collaboration with a video artist in Washington State. So the content from the video is from another series of mine called The Fountainelles. So the intricacy of these forms define the shapes in very dimensional ways I really like the way that the patterns moved around the form, creating these flying and diving and swimming forms in a very water-like pattern. I grew up in a house of bird watchers, and my mother was known to hang up on people, hang up the phone if she saw a rose-breasted grosbeak at the feeder. And so I've inherited that interest in what's happening with the birds. And in 2015, a warming ocean moved into our northwest coast, California, Oregon, Washington, Canada. And it triggered the metabolism of the large fish to increase. And that created a condition where the large fish were eating the small fish that diving seabirds, particularly the common murres, eat. And so I started using mirror and mounting these forms of the diving seabirds. And what you see is sunlight coming into my studio, and you see it appearing, the forms appearing and dissolving over time as the sun moves north and as it rises. They had this eerie sense to them that they were ascending out of this warming ocean. And we've lost over 1 million common murres due to, well, they've starved to death. So the sun comes in, it starts coming in April, and it moves north across the wall, western wall, and then disappears in mid-September. So again, working with the sun coming in through the studio onto optical mirror, and the optics are creating this central body form and these velocity details, these flourishes at the end. So the wingspan here is about 10 feet. In real time, this event is about an hour and a half. So we're looking at a time lapse. I was stunned by being able to experience the arc of the sun in the reflection of these forms that are bird-like, fish-like. Maybe they're from outer space. I'm very excited about this series, experimenting now with the optics and with different light sources, because what you saw in the video projection, I'm using the same mirrors that are creating these forms with sunlight. So sometimes it's the Bay Area, it's foggy. Sometimes the sun never really comes out. And this light bird struggled to fly. In this video, I have 2 optical mirrors. The sun is moving on the sky canvas of this corrugated building over time. doing the pop-up events and connecting with different artists and different scientists in various cities. I met a woman, Hannah Moon, who's working on her PhD in the impact of white light on street lights on seabirds, which is, as we know from turtles, really distracting and destructive. And I found out from her that most of the indigenous extinct and most of the introduced birds, we're losing them at a high speed. And she made sure that we were in the north, on the North Shore, to watch the albatrosses flying in. They are looking for food all day long. They fly out for over 40 miles and they come and feed and come back to feed their young at about 4 in the afternoon. And very beautiful, elegant birds, white bodies and these black wings. And I was asking her why it is at the Bishop Museum, and when you see stories about the impact of plastics on birds, why albatrosses eat so much plastic. She talked about how there's a discussion about how as albatrosses skim the ocean, some of the plastics smell like phytoplankton, but also algae grows on the plastic that is in the ocean. So albatrosses are consuming literally hundreds of pieces of plastic in their feeding process. And the one that I saw at the autopsied albatross had over 300 plastic parts in its digestive system, 13 big lighters. I think of the light birds as elegies, as ways of connecting to the movement of the sun. And I've also been researching the optics of the collimated light that is hitting the mirrors, where there's a peak phase of the wavelengths. That's where I'm getting the brighter spots, and where the wavelengths are out of phase, the darker spots, and where there's a mixture of the phases of the wavelengths of light, the midtones. So there's a lot to explore here. With the laser light, it's a non-collimated light. And even though the optics are the same, the reflections are very different. I have a grant, a visual artist grant from the city of Emeryville, to install quite a large mirror on this south-facing wall onto this north-facing wall, which is 200 feet long. Right now, I'm working on the engineering of wall mounting. And this is the sky canvas for this reflection. It's over 20 feet long, and it'll be moving with the arc of the sun during the day, and possibly it'll have a nighttime migration with video projection. And you might even be able to tell time by its position, because these tilt-up walls have these 20-foot dividers. when birds fly in murmuration, they organize themselves into groups of 7. So murmuration, when birds fly in formation, also called murmuration, they organize themselves into groups of 7, and they form a magnetic field between those 7 birds, and those 7 connect to the next 7 and the next. And so when you watch birds flying in murmuration, they actually do organize into a V shape. And as they move, when the lead bird is tired, it drops back and it rests, and another bird moves into the lead position. It's a really beautiful metaphor for community. And when you watch the murmuration, you'll see where the predator is. The flock gets really dense to avoid predation. They all come together. And so I'm looking for projects where I will be able to fly 7 birds. And a friend of mine said it looks that these shapes look like beneficent celestials that have come down to earth to talk to us humans in soft voices. So if you would like migration of light birds to come to your community and talk to them in soft voices, please be in touch.
Hey, thank you very much. Very
Thank
beautiful
you,
work.
Therese. I see in the QA, Catherine is asking something I wanted to ask, something about the mirrors. She's asking what kind of optical mirrors do you use? And personally, I also wanted to ask you how big they are. At one point, you were talking about the size of the San Jose one, but I lost the audio, those 2-3 seconds.
I'm working with acrylic mirror. I'm forming the mirror over molds into negative space, so they're convex forms. And very small actions in the mirror produce surprising shapes. And the largest mirror that I've worked with so far, so those 30-foot forms, those were about 2-foot mirrors that I was using. The largest mirror that I've worked with is 36 by 24. And from that, it depends on the early reflections that I showed in my studio. That mirror is about 5 or 6 feet away from the wall. And so the wingspan on that form is 10 to 15 feet. If I increase the distance from the mirror to the wall, then I can get light birds that are 20 or 30 feet wingspan, but less details.
So on this piece that's shown on the building that's up on the screen there, so that's, you captured those images and then you created the piece from those images, not like a live capture, right?
Yeah, this is an illustration of 7 reflections. So I'm wall mounting the mirrors and pole mounting the mirrors in order to do these projections. And of course, they're moving. They're moving all day with the arc of the sun. And so I should have a large light bird installation in Emeryville in late February or early March. And then I'll have time-lapse documentation of how it flies over time.
So I was moved by your comments about the loss of the birds that is happening. That I've read about some, but that was very, I don't know, present the way that you talked about it. But I was wondering about how it is that you feel that your work is illuminating, so to speak, that particular aspect of things, the loss of the birds. If you could talk about those intersections.
Visually, they're ephemeral forms. You know, they have great beauty, and they appear and dissolve, and to me they felt like elegies on one hand, because they have this somewhat ghostly presence, but at the same time they continue to fly with the movement of the sun. You know, it's a combination of the transparency and the ephemerality, and also keeping them flying, bringing awareness in the installation to what is happening with the birds. And I look forward to making a deeper connection with the movement of the sun and the optics and what's happening with the birds, and collaborate, more collaborations with people like Hannah Moon, who is researching this topic, and how to translate the heartbreak of it. So I feel a tenderness when I see these forms, and yeah.
There's one last question, and then we'll move on to Primavera, our last speaker, which is from Catherine Daly in the Q&A, and it says, I know of your interest in water and light, but I'm curious about how you conceived of the idea to use acrylic mirror.
It happened, I know, microplastics. It happened through experimentation and tinkering. And I was really stunned by the effects. It's an investigation of the material, and I'm looking at other materials right now, but they, every material has its challenges. I mean, stainless steel is very energy intensive to produce, and so tinkering.
Thank you very much. Very beautiful work.